Warning! This episode of James Bond Radio features a lot of swearing. It also features the naughtiest of all swear words. So, if you are of a nervous disposition or enjoy trawling the internet looking for things to get offended about, then for the love of all things sacred, do not listen to this week's podcast, or indeed the next 2 weeks of podcasts as well. We sincerely apologise in advance for what will likely be a highly upsetting episode of James Bond Radio. You have been warned.
Hi, this is Roger Moore, and you're listening to James Bond Radio.
Hello, and welcome to James Bond Radio episode 192, where we are continuing our review of the long-awaited Die Another Day. My name is Tom Sears, and I am joined by Mr. Who are you?
Who am I?
Yeah.
My name is Chris Wright. Hello.
How you doing, mate? You all right?
Yeah, not too bad, mate. Not too bad. So, round two. We did round one last week. It was, if we're being honest, it was pretty tough going, wasn't it? Would you say?
To say the least.
Obviously, round two, part two today. Yeah, it's going to be another interesting one, I think.
It is.
Another interesting one. Again, I think we did highlight a few points in part one which showed promise, had a bit of potential. Overall, they were sort of minor compared to the rest of it. I wonder if there'll be a couple of little slim slivers of potential, within this one.
Maybe.
We'll see.
Let me ask you this, man. Before
Yes.
we started reviewing this, when was the last time you saw Die Another Day? Obviously, for me, famously, it was 18 years ago. But what about you?
Yeah, mine would have been, I think, it would have been 2017. Myself and good man agent Rory Cooper, we did an anniversary celebration. So we did Dr. No. I think we did You Only Live Twice. We did Spy Who Loved Me. We did Living Daylights. We did Tomorrow Never Dies. We did Die Another Day.
Shit, dude, that's quite the marathon.
And one other. I think we did it over a weekend. I can't remember exactly. And we did Skyfall, and we did them over a weekend. And we it was quite wicked actually. So we went out and we bought sort of food related to each of the films. So for Jamaica we had little Jamaican for Dr. No we had little Jamaican patties and stuff like that. For Skyfall we had a Scottish steak pie and a glass of whiskey and stuff
Very
like that.
nice.
And I think it was sushi for You Only Live Twice and what have you. So a Viennese Wells for Tomorrow Never Dies.
I haven't had a Viennese whirl in donkeys. That's beautiful.
I can't remember what we did for Die Another Day, but we do for that one. Oh, I think we tried to get Korean sort of curry, but the closest we could get was like a katsu curry or a Thai curry. So we just had that, and then we crossed it off and put Korean instead of Thai or Japanese.
You both didn't just eat your own shit for Die Another Day.
Well, that would have been the other option, yeah. But no, we didn't quite, drop to depths.
Hey.
Yeah.
Now, something I meant to mention last time, actually, man. You recently had a landmark birthday, didn't you? Turning 40 years old. How does that feel, man? You do you have any wisdom for us still in the those of us still in the prime of our youths, like me?
Yeah, stick to it. Stick with it. don't escape the youth of 39 and under. It was pretty cool. It's strange, man, as I'm sure it is for everyone that's listening in terms of having a birthday or some sort of celebration in lockdown. It was really weird in terms of we couldn't go out, really couldn't do much. But my better half, bless her, she put on an absolutely outstanding day for me. I might have mentioned it before, but I woke up to Live and Let Die playing on the old vinyl, and that's in itself is amazing. And then we had a really nice breakfast, and then I had a bit of an Indiana Jones treasure hunt around the place where we're living, so that was really cool. And then we, I think we obviously watched a Bond film, and we had a lot of fun. It was good, but it's one of those things where it's a strange situation. You could only speak to your mates and family on doing chat and stuff, so it wasn't your usual one. But bless her, she pulled out all the stops.
You got yourself a good woman there, mate. Nice one.
Indeed, yeah. Funnily enough, actually, on that point, we're having a chat this morning, and her dad used to work in London as he basically refurbed antiques.
Okay.
It's sort of old antiques, and he had a really well-known sort of shop back in the day. And I only found out this morning, I don't know how it's taken so long, that 3 of his previous clients have included Honor Blackman, Diana Rigg, and Joanna Lumley, which
Good
I think
Lord.
is pretty outstanding, isn't it?
That is pretty cool. 3
Yeah.
great Bond girls as well there, man.
Yeah.
Like proper classic ones.
Absolutely.
That's
yeah.
amazing. Did he tell you what they bought or what?
I'm
what-
gonna find out.
Okay.
Yeah, Michelle doesn't know all the details yet, but I'm sure as hell gonna ask about it next time I chat with her dad. So yeah, definitely.
2
I'll
of
get on
those
that.
recently left us, of course, on a
it's sad times,
good
man.
old Tracy
Sad times,
there,
isn't it?
Diana Rigg, yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Very nice. Well, mate, I have to tell you, you are aging absolutely beautifully. I saw many messages on our social medias on your birthday of people saying, I thought you were 10 years younger than you were about to turn 30. So that's a good sign,
Wow.
isn't it? You're doing well
Well,
there,
I paid off a lot of people.
mate. Yeah.
My bank is pretty low at the moment.
Do you know what? I do jest, but I'm not far away from that number myself, man. I'm about
Yeah.
18 months away from that. And what's terrifying is I can remember my own father's 40th birthday, clear as day. And to illustrate the amount of time that's passed, whilst my dad was having his big birthday, my mum got him a kissogram. So there was a lady who'd come stripped down to her underwear and was sitting on his back, making him do push-ups in front of all the friends and family that were there.
Right.
And
How old were you at the time?
Well, I would have been 8.
Wow. Okay.
8, yeah.
Eye opener then. Yeah.
This was 1990. And do you know what I was doing at the time? I was upstairs watching WWF wrestling because it was the storyline where Earthquake had earthquaked Hulk Hogan and broken his rib, and there was big talk about whether he was going to retire or not. And I loved Hulk as much as I love Bond to this day, maybe even more, because I was so into my Hulk Hogan in those days.
Yeah.
And it was the day where he was either going to announce his retirement or announce he was going to come back and kick Earthquake's ass. And I remember him talking into the camera, as they do, going, "No, I'm not going to retire. I'm going to come back and I'm going to get you, Earthquake." And I remember like screaming with joy and running down into the dining room and telling everybody that Hulk Hogan wasn't going to retire and he was going to come back. No attention paid to the stripogram at all,
Really?
which for me is,
How times have changed.
how times have changed, man. That just goes to show how little I was. And here I am, 18 months away from that number myself. Goodness gracious.
I
man.
was more of an Ultimate Warrior dude back in the day. I used to love Ultimate Warrior. I
Ultimate
remember
Warrior was the business.
dressing up as him a couple of times, doing the old tangles off your arms, and he was my favourite. Hulk, I liked Hulk. I mean, you got to like Hulk, but Ultimate Warrior was my
He
my
was
guy.
cool,
and the
man.
Legion of Doom were my tag team. I used to love the Legion of
I
Doom.
was all about the Bushwhackers, man, for me.
Oh,
They
yeah.
were- Anyway, we're digressing into
That shows
WWF
our
radio,
age, doesn't it? Just
but it
talking
does.
about that already.
Yeah, big time.
I know.
All right then. So should we crack on and do
it.
part 2 of Die Another Day, Chris?
Yeah, let's have a bit of theme tune and we'll crack on with part 2.
My name's Bond. James Bond. Bond.
James.
Bond, what do you think you're doing?
Keeping the British end up, sir.
Welcome to James Bond Radio. News, reviews, and discussion of all things 007.
Lucy. As you can see, I have no problem with female authority.
Oh, pipe down, 007.
Do you expect me to talk? No, Mr. Bond, I expect you to lie.
All right. So where did we leave Bond last time then, Chris?
Oh, mate. We left him in the arms of Jinx with a very, very gratuitous scene, Tom. One which I think neither of us were keen on for lots of reasons. The grinding, the humping, and the cum face being, being several of them.
Not what you want to see at
No.
all. I really do struggle with that, man. I really do. I don't think I've ever been quite so uncomfortable watching a Bond film as I am during that particular moment.
No, I don't blame you, man. I don't blame you. So Bond wakes up and Jinx is gone. He gets out of bed, basically has a little peer out the window, and he sees that she's about to board this ferry to Los Organos, obviously the clinic island. He hasn't got a ticket, so he comes up with this idea and he goes to see, do you remember there's that sort of obnoxious South African dude?
I do.
The sort of creep guy, yeah. So he goes to his room with a wheelchair and...
I don't need a wheelchair.
Yeah, and then obviously knocks him out and gets him in there. There's a couple of things I like about this. Firstly, it's always nice when you see an arsehole get his comeuppance, and obviously that creep guy, he wasn't nice. He aimed his gun at the waiter and obviously he was perving over the women and stuff. So I like the fact that Bond obviously took him out. And another thing that I really liked about this scene is Bond just walks in. There's a woman on the bed having a cigarette, and she's just like, "Hola," and it doesn't even blink, doesn't even like react to Bond coming in.
Yeah.
And I really like that. I think that's quite Bondy, and I think that sort of scene is cool. And obviously, Bond then gets to take the South Africans' ticket so we can then get on board. Which I like that little bit. What do you think?
Yeah, it's all right. It's nice. Yeah, it's what I like is Bond using his wits, which he does here. And as far as I'm aware, that dude has no bearing on the plot whatsoever, is he? He's just like
South
a
African
random
dude. No, it's just to get Bond to have a ticket so he can get to think. Which he must have got on the ferry after Jinx, because obviously that would have been weird if they were both on the ferry, but we didn't actually see them chat to one another.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming he got the next one. But yeah, it's purely a plot point, just so he
just
can
to
get
get
a
a ticket.
ticket.
So that's nice. What I like is when Bond uses his wits a little bit like that, where he sees a situation, he gets creative to solve it. It's not just handed to him, which I think is very nice. And like you say, it's nice when it's a total dickhead and he gets his comeuppance, which is very nice. I do like. There's a little sort of subtle bit, not subtle really, that's the wrong word, but when he goes to the clinic puts him in the wheelchair, goes through, pushes him against the wall to cause the distraction, and then just sort of calmly walks around, climbs through the window the other side, and it's all very smooth, isn't it? It's not like it just all happens in one flowing motion, which is really nice. And my bit that does raise a smirk is where he just takes a little grape off them and just little throwback to Thunderball there. Yeah, that's a nice little touch. Now, something that troubles me a little bit is he goes around the corner. He pulls the little wire out of the security camera. Yeah. And how does he know there's a secret entrance there? What gives that away?
I assume the security camera, because otherwise why else would it be focused on a wall? I'm assuming because it's there, that's what makes him know that there's got to be some sort of secret.
That's a good point.
Button or whatever to.
I tell you what, though, I'm also as he sort of stands back and surveys the wall, I can see where the switch is immediately.
Yeah, it is quite obvious.
Yeah,
it does take him a while to sort of feel around. But this next bit, I always find a bit strange. So he presses the button in the obviously the star. The wall moves back. It's a secret entrance. He goes in and he walks down this little corridor of mirrors, sort of rotating mirrors, angled mirrors with DNA strands. Okay, we get the DNA strands. It's a DNA sort of therapy clinic. What is the point of the mirrors being there? I guess it's a bit of an homage to Golden Gun in a way, but why are they there? What is that about?
Yeah, I think that's it, isn't it? It's Scaramanga's Funhouse sort of throwback, because that was the thing, wasn't it? Because it was the 40th anniversary. They were like, we put references to every Bond film in this film somewhere. What do you think? First of all, what do you think of that concept? Do you like that idea or not?
Okay, so I think when it's done subtly and when it's done well, I think it's fine. I think the trouble with this film is they took that as a start point rather than a script almost. So it's like, right, let's make sure we get like at least 5 bits from every film in this. So rather than concentrating on the actual script of the film, it was like, I know, if we do this, we can have this bit from this film and this bit from this film. And it's sort of taken away. But I think when it's done well, I like it, but too much is too much. And, you want things to be original at the same time as sort of,
That's it. For me, I think where I land on that is I want it to be something super subtle that us super geeks would know and notice, but at the same time, you're not beaten over the head with it. You know what I mean? That's the difference for me. When it's all the time like this. Like for me, all he had to do is take that grape. And to the layman, they wouldn't even know that's the thing. But to us, it's that secret little gift that they give to us where it's like, hey, that's nice. That's all I need. I don't need anything stronger than that. Like I've often said, like the strawberry fields on the bed with the oil thing, that to me is just like, no, it's already been done better than that. So don't try and do that again. I'll have just one little reference here and there, maybe 2. Let's not go beyond that, I think. And that's a worry for this film of trying to shoehorn everything in every time. So yeah, I mean, Man with the Golden Gun, Funhouse, that's it really, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Is what it is. So then we kind of cut to Jinx, and she's in with Dr. Alvarez talking about how she wants gene therapy. I'm not sure what she'd want it for because, I don't think she needs too much changing, but there we are.
Absolutely.
And this is a bit of a strange thing. Again, the dialogue is a bit ropey here. So, I like to think of myself as an artist. How many times have you heard that line in films before? It's in every flipping action film with a villain and all this. It's
just cliche after cliche, isn't it, man? That's what it is.
That's the trouble.
Yeah.
Bond should be original. Bond should be setting the standard. And when you just roll out with this dross of stuff that you've heard a million times, it starts to annoy me. Anyway, so Jinx shoots Alvarez and tries to burn her details, doesn't she? And at the same time that's going on, Bond basically, he's going around the clinic and he comes across Zhao. So he gets into this room. Zhao is kind of halfway through his treatment, so he's had his skin bleached, his hair's off, he's had his eyes changed, like contacts put in. He's
got
trying
the
to
diamonds,
learn.
though, eh?
What's that?
Still got the diamonds, though, eh?
Still can do everything else. Can't get the diamonds out. Still got the diamonds. And he's learning German. And you see when Jinx is looking up the computer, you see he's halfway through, and what he'd ultimately end up looking like is a Western, and he's obviously learning German, so that's what he's going to be. And Bond kind of taps on his screen, doesn't he? And then to get his attention, he grips the drip bag and like squeezes it, and then suddenly Zhao's like in pain, and he gets up, and then we get like a fight between the two of them. And on one hand, I think it's quite a cool fight, and on the other hand, I'm not so sure. So I think Zhao is. Like, I know what you said about the diamonds, and it is a bit strange. Like, I'm uncertain about that. But what I do like about Zhao is he's stacked. He's proper shredded. He's also clever. He's not like an idiot as a henchman, and he poses a real threat to Bond. Like he can kick Bond's ass basically. And I think this fight is quite. I like the bit where he strangles him with the cords from the hospital stuff, from the ECG wires and all that sort of stuff. And Bond does look in trouble, but then you get the bit where it kind of just moves too slowly for me. I want it to be a bit hard hitting, and it just feels a bit pedestrian. Because there's that bit where Bond punches him and grabs the necklace, and you're like, okay, that's obviously going to come back later on in the story. But then after that, it gets a bit, with the magnet and the gun and all this sort of stuff. I'm not.
Once
again, I don't know.
It looks so scripted.
Yeah,
doesn't it?
that's
It doesn't
the trouble.
look real, man.
No.
With the going back to a great fight from Brosnan, GoldenEye. 007 versus 006,
so
man.
Yeah.
That is such a brutal fight, and you feel every punch on that one, man. There's the bit where he swings down and like boots him in the face, and it just feels frantic and terrifying, and a real fight to survive.
Yeah.
This, rather like the hovercraft sequence from last time, it just feels set up and so going through the motions and scripted. And it doesn't feel like a real fight, does it?
No.
I've just had a thought about Zhao.
Yeah.
And as ridiculous as the sort of face swap thing is, if you're going to have that in a Bond film, I feel like maybe Zhao's position should have been he was the guinea pig for the face transplant and it went wrong.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you don't even need to see it on the film. You don't even need to see that happen. He just looks maybe like he does in the film, or he's just somehow mangled where he was like the guinea pig, and they've since perfected it, and then Moon goes in, and then that's the thing. You don't need to see his backstory of how it happened. You just need to hear that he was the guinea pig of the face swap thing,
but still loyal to Moon,
and you still have that same character, and it's not quite as ham-fisted as having a bunch of diamonds stuck in his cheeks.
Mate, I love that idea. I think that's a fantastic idea. Like, and you see when he first meets him, like obviously it's already happened and there's something wrong with him. You're like, well, what's wrong with this guy? And then you find, I love it. I think that's way better than the diamond idea straight away.
Thanks very much,
Brilliant.
man.
That's right. That's right. Okay, so what have we got after that? Yeah, so that's it. So Bond, obviously, Zhao gets away. Bond's in the corridor. He sees Jinx, and Jinx has sort of set some explosives in Alvarez's office. And they both see Zhao sort of leap through the window outside, and Bond goes to chase after him when the explosive goes off. And basically, he sort of falls to the ground, and he sees Alvarez has been shot. and then he sees the papers from Jinx's papers they didn't quite burn, so he knows that okay, something's going on with her. It's not quite all she seems. And then I'm not too fond on this bit. So basically, Jinx then goes after Zhao, and you've got that bit where Zhao's running, and you can tell he's sort of running fast, and he's built and everything, and she's got the gun and trying to fire him, and he ends up going to the helicopter. Bond then decides to sort of explode a pressurized gas canister into the wall so he can get out. And then we get this bit where, okay, so Zhao gets in the helicopter, he flies away, a couple of shots, but he gets away, and that's all right, that's it's not bad. But then you've got that moment where Jinx is kind of standing with her back to like the sort of cliff, the wall, under gunpoint, two sort of guards on her. Bond gets there, and I really, really hate this bit. And she sort of gives him the old eyebrows going up, and then just you see that shot where she kind of falls backwards into a backwards dive into some of the worst CGI I've ever seen. It's just fucking ridiculous. And it annoys me because why do they let it happen? Why did they let it go in there? It looks so shit.
It does, doesn't it?
Sorry, but it does.
So, no, you don't have to apologise, man. It's okay. It's funny, man. When we were having the big break over the summer, I revisited some other things outside of I had a proper Bond break, and I revisited some other things. One of which was the Jurassic Park movies, right?
Oh yeah, they're pretty cool.
And I've just finished reading the book actually, and it's amazing how I think Jurassic Park was 93, if I remember right.
Yeah, that sounds 92, 93.
And
yeah, that sounds right.
that CGI still stands up today, man. That film still looks great. I was expecting to watch it. I haven't seen it in years. I was expecting to be like, oh, look how that thing where you're like, how believable that used to look, and now it looks silly. And I'm watching it, I'm like, shit, that looks really fucking good. And that was 93, and this is like basically a decade later. And just, what is this, man? What is it? Like that thing you talked about, there was a term you had for it, that weird like slow motion speedy uppy thing that he does.
They do crash zoom, which is like where they go, they sort of go in really fast and then slow it down, and just the slow-mo stuff.
Is that the same thing they did in Mission Impossible 2?
Similar, yeah.
Because that must have been around this time as well, wasn't it? Mission Impossible. When did Mission Impossible?
Yeah, but Mission Impossible 2 was just. They might have done a couple of crash zooms, but there was a lot of slow mo that was on the bike chase, wasn't it? And the birds flying and all that sort of stuff. But I think it's okay in certain films, but this film seems to be taking like aspects from certain other films where they think, oh, that looked good, to use it in a film where it shouldn't be, like a Bond film. Like there are,
well, that's it. Mission Impossible 2 was 2000, so a couple of years before this one. But yeah, it's oh god, it's just there for the sake of it. It's a bit gimmicky, isn't it? It doesn't add anything or do anything. But the thing that bothers me is that where Jinx is stood up there, and she makes some bollocks quip, and then just does this sort of like really cheesy thing where she looks at Bond and just gives him a wink, because they're like, watch this, and then just that back dive thing. It's just so shit, man, and they're just words can't describe it. It's just so half-assed. The whole thing is just like we always say about Bond, don't we? That he should lead the way in all things, and that when you do a stunt, what makes it thrilling is that it's real. Look at that parkour chase in Casino Royale, man! What a masterpiece that thing is, and how genuinely when they're up on the top of those cranes and they jump off, you really do hold your breath. You're like, when you see him land and all the rest of it, and all that stuff is so amazing, and it's real. And this is somebody diving off a wall, right?
But there are people in the world that can do that.
Well,
there are people in Mexico that can, well, it doesn't have to be Mexico, but that's where one of the famous high dive spots are. And there are people that can dive that height that could have been filmed and merged into the film. Why wasn't that used?
That's precisely it. It's not like we have to find a Tyrannosaurus Rex somewhere and put it in this film. No. It's somebody jumping off a wall.
Well, think of Diamonds Are Forever. The leap off the oil rig. That was done for real, and that's super high.
Oh, there you go,
maybe not quite as high as this one, but...
That perfectly illustrates the point for me, is that is such a simple thing, why can't you? If you can't be bothered to do that for real, that sets the tone again for the rest of the film.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh God, I'm sorry to the listeners at home because this is such all we're doing is
We do
moaning.
really like Bond.
We do, and we love the people involved in it. We love the series, but it's so difficult to get through this film without it because there's so little meat that you can get excited about, and there's so many things like that that's just like it's somebody jumping off a wall, man. How hard was that to get somebody to dress up like Halle Berry and jump off a fucking wall into the water?
Yeah.
That's the thing. So anyway, what happens next, Chris?
Oh God. Okay, so basically, Jinx gets to the lands in the sea, and there's like a speedboat waiting for her, so she gets to go away. Gives Bond a little peace sign as she goes, which is another fucking thing that annoys me. But anyway, but then there is a part that I like. So there's a bit where Jinx is gone. That obviously helps, and Bond basically thinks about Zal's necklace and undoes it, and then gets the diamonds that come out. And I like this for a few reasons. Mainly because there's a really nice little cue from You Only Live Twice. It's that slight British, quite British sounding Bond theme, which is in You Only Live Twice. It's by when Bond is about to be the funeral at sea, where Bond right. His thing is about to go down when they're about to fire the guns.
I know what you mean about a British sounding Bond theme now. That's a great way to describe it. And
that's sort of subtly done when he's looking at the diamonds. So I do like that bit. So he's got these diamonds, and I was going to say this later on, but I might as well just say it now. Basically, I would love to have the chance to re-edit this film, and I think I could do it pretty much taking out the Halle Berry character.
Really?
And I think it would be all the better for it. I mean, there are certain things that would be tricky to do, but I think I just haven't got any time for her character, and it's not Halle Berry. It's Jinx. It's the way the character's written. The writing is atrocious. The scenes that they're involved in are really bad. The CGI is awful, but it's painful.
It's
painful.
Just the problem is, man. The reason we're struggling to do this is because it's just a disaster from start to finish. It's Halle Berry, man, is just great actor, Oscar winner, in fact, but not really Bond material. And B, that character is just so like basic level action film, you know.
And the fact that we're going to bring out a whole series based on
isn't that a joke?
That's
man.
ridiculous.
Isn't that a joke?
Yeah.
It's just like we've seen that character so many times in just the most basic middle of the afternoon cop show dramas. You know what I mean? And it's just that's not what Bond is, and it never should be. No. But yeah, all right. So he knows that he's got the diamonds in the necklace.
Yep.
He goes back to see Raoul, the Delectados man. They work out that the diamonds, they've got the GG, Gustav Graves.
That's it.
And they work out that they're conflict diamonds, and they're identical in every way or whatever. And
so basically, they're from chemically compound from Sierra Leone. So conflict diamonds. So basically what Graves has done is he's taken conflict diamonds, he's put his own logo on it, and he said they've come from this find that he's got in Iceland, just so he can obviously trade in them, even though there's an embargo on them. So he's been a bit naughty, basically. But that's all good. I like the character of Raoul turning that. Bond also learns that basically this hall in Iceland was discovered a year or so ago, and that's obviously the place where he needs to go. And again, he's smoking another cigar, so he's getting his puff on in this film. And then we go a quick shot to MI6, and you got Moneypenny listening in to Damien Falco basically having a go at M, saying that about the Cuban clinic, Bond going wild and all that sort of stuff, and saying to get her house in order or he's going to do it for her. Again, I'm not quite sure. Like, I like the idea of the Americans sort of bullying the British and that sort of thing, but I'm still not sure about Madsen.
No,
it feels almost too soft a character for him to portray, because we're used to him doing like
cutting
obviously
ears off
pretty
and stuff.
nasty shit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I do like a bit of friendly rivalry between the Americans and the British, right?
Yeah.
In the sense that there's the line in Tomorrow Never Dies, isn't there, about getting their news from CNN or whatever it is. And there's that sort of like, I would say, friendly competition between the two.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The old power that now doesn't exist versus the new power, and there's that sort of friendly back and forth. And yeah, so that's fine. I think he's miscast, man. I just don't know why somebody like him, a name that we all know, a name and face that we all know, who does a very specific thing that we know him for. It's like having Samuel L. Jackson in a Bond film. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you
That'd be so
potentially
weird, wouldn't it?
Wouldn't
That'd
it?
be so weird.
If you
Even
had
though
so-
he's an amazing actor,
Yeah.
he's brilliant.
He's brilliant.
But just the fact that he's there, you'd just be thinking, I'm watching Samuel L. Jackson. And that's the same
Exactly.
with Michael Madsen.
Yeah.
You're not thinking, I'm watching Damien Falco.
No.
You're thinking, I'm watching Michael Madsen.
Well, that's it.
And that's just the way it
and
is.
because he's a name like that, you expect him to be doing more, and he just doesn't. He's such a shelf character that's just on the shelf in the background, not doing a lot.
Yeah.
And if you had Samuel L. Jackson in some bizarre universe, you might have him as a Bond villain, right?
He's good in really good in Kingsman 1. Have you seen that?
I have. I can't remember what he does in that.
He's
though.
got that
It's
lisp,
been a
and he's the
long
one.
time.
They've got the everyone who uses the phone. He's got his SIM card. They makes him go deranged and
Very nice.
fighting
I'll have to-
everyone.
it's
But
been a
anyway,
while
he's
since
good
I've
in
seen that. I'll have to
But
rewatch it.
yeah, that's comic booky as opposed
But
to.
yeah, if you had him in a Bond film with just a very minor role, you'd be like, "What's Samuel L. Jackson doing?" It's like that doesn't feel right. That's the same. That's what I get from Michael Madsen. What's that? He just needed to be one of those actors that's you don't know who he is. He's just a good actor, you know.
Exactly.
But hey ho, it is what it is. Right, what happens next, Chris?
Okay, so next we go to London. Now this is a bit of an interesting one. So obviously we see Bond on a British Airways flight. Couple of good things here, couple of strange things here perhaps. First of all, it's good to see Sir Roger's daughter Deborah as the air
Absolutely.
hostess, obviously serving him his drink, and he's like, "Oh, I'm glad I asked for it shaken." That's a nice line. I like it.
Yeah.
You know, I like it. What do you think of the use of London's calling?
What do I think of it?
Yeah.
What do I think of it? I here's the thing, right? Graves parachuting in Union Jack parachute. I'm like, it's one of those things that's so in your face and has been done so much better before. That for me is Bond's domain. Nobody else is allowed to use a Union Jack parachute apart from Bond, as far as I'm concerned.
Why didn't he use one with like a double G Graves Corporation logo on it?
Well, clearly it was
like
another Easter egg for us all for the
Well,
40th
yeah,
anniversary, wasn't it? That's the thinking behind it. But it's just like, I don't like that. I imagine if I was Roger sitting there watching that at the premiere, I think that was the first of the Albert Hall premieres, wasn't it? Die Another Day, if I remember
yeah,
right.
I think it might have been. Yeah.
And you're sitting there, you're Roger, you're a badass. You've taken part in one of the greatest pre-title sequences and films in the whole series, and then you see it being sort of ripped off in this one in a not very good way. You're going to be like, oh, look at that! They've nicked my signature thing, you know. And yeah, I don't like it. I don't know. I don't think I
What
like
about the song?
songs. I don't think I like songs in Bond films, other than ones that
it's strange, isn't it?
particularly specifically written for the Bond film. So, you know, you could say, I mean, there's not a lot of them, but there's, you know, Underneath the Mango Tree, banger. I'll have that every time.
Dirty
that comes
Love.
on in the club. I'm yeah. Dirty Love every day of the week, mate. 7 days a week. I'll take that one. You know, where has everybody gone?
Oh, that's an
I'll have-
amazing
That's a
tune.
banger.
Yeah, love
But
it.
when it's a song famous in its own right outside of Bond, like that one, it pulls me out of it a bit. In my view, Bond lives in this sort of almost like a slightly different dimension that isn't this. And you know, Barry Manilow exists, and the Beatles do, obviously, but I don't know. It's jarring to me. What do you feel?
The thing is, I think you need to be, or you want to be, immersed in a film. And if there's anything that takes you out of that, like we mentioned the Michael Madsen casting, it does. It just takes you out of it. Well, for us anyway. And I think when I very I don't know if I've warmed to it more than I did the song, but I do remember, like, I've seen it. Don't know how many times I've seen it. Certainly a few more times than you. But I do remember thinking, oh, this is a bit weird. I'm not quite sure what I feel about this. And the very fact that thought's crossed my mind isn't really good, because I should be involved in what I'm watching and being enveloped with the whole film and being immersed, and that wasn't happening. So it didn't do its job for me, at least initially. Like I've warmed to it a little bit, but I still don't think it's great. I did like, there's a couple of other subtle little things, like when he's on the flight, he's reading that magazine article about Graves, and you see it's written by journalist Greg Wilson, which I thought was quite a cool little
I
thing.
didn't spot that.
Yeah,
Very nice.
that's quite a cool thing. And I think there's a line where it says, "Diamonds are forever, but life isn't. I want to make a mark with mine," or something like that.
Yeah.
But so that's quite cool.
What do you think about the Union Jack parachute?
Yeah, I know what you mean.
See,
to me, that's
when
the same. That's the same as Strawberry Fields on the Bed. It's that is the same for both. Even though I'm not as against that as you, I get the same sort of feeling, I think.
See, what did you think about when we spoke to Vic Armstrong and he was talking about in While There's Not Enough, he wanted the little I forget the name of them now. Parahawks.
Yeah.
With the parachute came out, he wanted it to be like the Soviet flag.
Yeah.
Did you like that idea, or how do you feel about that? Because for me, that's it's a nod, but it's not the same thing. It's kind of what do you think? I think the right decision was to not have it. But
the thing is, I think because they weren't really, they were working for Renard, so they weren't really working for Mother Russia.
Yeah, that's true.
So if it had like a Renard or some sort of logo attached to him, I think, because Bond's British, he works for the government.
Yeah,
that's what the flag is associated with. So I'm not sure if the Russian flag would have worked, in honesty. But I think here, if it had been a Gustav Graves Corporation canopy or whatever, I think that definitely would have worked. I think with the Union Jack, I guess the other way to look at it is, he's coming into Buckingham Palace. He's there to be knighted, so it could be his way of being a little nod to the Queen and saying, "Oh, look how British I am." So in that way, I don't think it's just because of spy. I think it's also, well, hang on a minute, he's here to be knighted, so why wouldn't he show how British he is?
Yeah, I guess so.
So I do give it that little bit of leeway.
All right, fair play.
Yeah, so I'd be all right with that. So Miranda Frost, like we said, is outside Buckingham Palace, load of journalists. Graves parachutes in. Bond watches on as he answers loads of journalists, and again you get all the dialogue, like they say in fencing, what's the point? And why sleep when there's plenty of time to do that when you're dead, and all that sort of stuff.
So I suppose what we have to acknowledge here is that even though we don't know the twist yet, this is our villain's entrance, isn't it?
Yeah,
that's what she said. This is our villain's entrance, and it's a big entrance, isn't it? It's like, that's and he's easy to hate, isn't he, as a villain? Like that sort of
I like Toby Jones. I really like Toby Jones. I think he plays that
you like Toby Stevens more though, don't you?
Oh, Toby Stevens. What am I saying? Toby Jones. Toby Jones. Although I do like Toby Jones, but he's not the Toby I was thinking of. Yeah, Toby Stevens. Sorry about that. No, I think he's like you said, he's got that face to hate. Yeah. He's got that snarling smirk.
Yeah.
And like the whole fact that he's younger than Bond by quite a considerable years, you'd imagine. And I think he plays the character well. Obviously, later on in the film, it's not his fault. But I think with what he has, I think he does it well. And I think,
he is.
Toby Stevens,
he is
good actor.
Super exaggerated, though, isn't he? Like he's almost a cartoon character villain, isn't he? Like,
but that's also the dialogue as well, isn't it?
True. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. What happens next?
Right.
Chris?
Okay. So then we get to Blades. Obviously, the fencing club. Now. Okay, there is a moment here. Which I can tell what you're thinking. So Bond gets to greet Verity.
Ugh.
Verity, obviously being Madonna, as a fencing instructor. Now, Tom, you're not a fan of the title song. We're obviously well aware of that. What are your thoughts on the cameo appearance by Madonna?
It's horrific. I don't know what else to say, man. it's not only that it's Madonna, which of course again takes you out of it immediately. It's the horrendous writing, the dialogue they're saying, "I seem to have come undone," or whatever it is she says.
Oh, yeah.
Turns around and it's like, what is this? And then
I trust you handle your weapon well.
And it's
I've always been known to keep my tip up.
God, it's horrible, Chris. It's horrible. And the fact that Madonna is in it does nothing for anybody. It's just look, it's Madonna. And again, it takes you out of everything.
Exactly. That's
And
what it does. It
just
takes you out of the film.
Doesn't make sense. And are we led to believe that Bond and Verity had a thing at some point?
Well, they must have obviously known each other and had some sort of a past, whether they had a thing or I don't know. It's, again, what is the point? Like, that could have been played by an up-and-coming British actress who, was on her way to doing really good stuff. Yeah. Great, good little segment. Like you said, Madonna's in there. You're like, well, I'm just watching Madonna. More so than Michael Madsen, because at least he's an actor, sort of thing. And like with Madonna, you're just like, well, what's going on?
And Madonna is not a great actress, is she? Bless her heart. It's like it's so. But again, it's the material they're
She
giving.
hasn't got a lot to work with.
It's just horrendous.
Yeah.
And I can't wait for the scene to be over, basically.
Yeah. There is some positives, though. There are some positives, I should say. I think Bond looks rock in that fencing uniform. I think he looks brilliant. I think it suits him really, really well. And I think fencing as a sport is very Bond-like. I think it's one of those classic sort of sports that I think Bond should be good at. He should have good fencing skills. And like sword play is a bit pirates, or even maybe samurai or whatever, and it doesn't quite fit in Bond's world, even though he could be good. But fencing is definitely a Bond type sport, and he does look great, I think. Yeah,
you're absolutely right, man. That is one of those things where it's that when you have a sport like that, it's very classic, it's very old school, it's the realm of the posh, isn't it? You and I don't go out fencing, do we? If you were born to a high-born family, you would probably have fencing lessons on the weekend and all the rest of it. So that is the world in which Bond operates, isn't it? So it's you're absolutely right. And it's nice to see that in a Bond film, because again, it's something new, it works, it fits. This is our first glimpse of Rosamund as well, isn't it? This is where we meet Miranda Frost, and so we
saw her briefly outside Buckingham Palace, as is of
course right. That's it.
First proper time, I guess.
That's right. And Verity is talking about how she trained Miranda, and she gone to the Olympics. Or some
and then
shit,
Miranda's kind of training Gustav, I guess. Yeah.
And do you know what? I think she is great. I think of all these people who exist in this film who I feel like shouldn't be in a Bond film, Michael Madsen, Madonna, definitely, she does fit.
Rosamund Pike.
Yeah, Rosamund Pike, I think, I look at her and I'm like, yeah, she belongs in a Bond film. She's great. And seeing her in the fencing uniform, I'm like, yeah, it's terrible that it's this film that she's in, but she screams Bond girl to me. Especially back in those days, she's done really well for herself, hasn't she? Since back in those days when nobody really knew her, it was a fresh face that was new and brilliant casting, like it. And she was going to be Gala Brand, wasn't she? In the thing from Moonraker, but that changed. So the world of fencing, this is that classic thing, isn't it, where Bond knows Gustav is up to something weird. And he pokes the bee's nest, doesn't he? They do a wager, and he's like, "How about for this?" Shows him the diamond, and he gets the sort of furrowed brow from Gustav of like, "Oh, okay, this guy knows what I'm up to. Let's blah blah blah." And then they have the fencing battle. Now, how do you feel about this? Because on the one hand, it's like they have a normal jousting session of fencing, if that's the correct term, which I'm pretty sure it's not. And there's a bit of a back and forth, but then it explodes into this massive fight across the whole building. How do you feel about this?
So I think I'm actually not too bad on it. So basically they get into the sort of fencing, and Bond loses, doesn't he? So he loses the first 2 points. I think they're initially playing for like 1,000 a point or something like this. And then Bond says, well, how about up in the wager? Shows the diamond, one of his sort of thing. And then Bond wins the next point, and then Gustav sort of gets that aggro, and he's like, right, if we're up in the wager, why don't we up the weapons? And then they gets rid of the epis and brings out the swords. And then I tell you what I do like about this scene. I like that Graves is, again, he's really well built. Like, you could see the arms on Toby Stevens, and both, it's very rare to have a main villain and a henchman who are both stacked. Like, normally, generally speaking, it's the henchman, but occasionally you might get a villain, but to have them both as physical challenges is rare, and I like that aspect to him. But also his aggression, particularly when his conceitedness is almost his undoing because he thinks he's unbeatable. Here comes Bond, and now he's like, right, he really wants to do him some damage. In terms of what follows, in terms of the battle, because you have got some interesting moments. You've got obviously them crashing through glass displays, cutting like antique paintings, and the guy reading a newspaper, and that bit with a chair where Bond sort of steps on it and comes down and all that. Part of me is really enjoying it, but then there's also that slight bit of over choreographedness, which we mentioned for some of the other scenes, which is a bit of a shame. And then they end up outside in the sort of courtyard in the bit. And I did like the fact that Graves kicked Bonds a couple of times just to show a little bit of the martial art. Maybe he didn't want to show too much to give the game away at that point of who he really is. But I'm glad at least there was a bit of that in there. And then Bond does that sort of leap, forward roll type thing, and then cuts his torso, punches him, and he ends up in the fountain. And it's the sort of thing where I think it's, compared to the rest of the film, I'd class it as a highlight for me compared to most of the rest of the film. But again, it's maybe a little bit too staged. I don't know if it's a little bit too clean. I don't know.
So I tell you, I feel very similar to you in the sense that I like the idea of it, and it basically goes just a little bit too far.
Yeah.
Again, suits the style of the film, I guess, but it could have been a great, I don't know, Bond engaging in swordplay. I don't know whether that really.
It is a bit like
Bond.
piratey, isn't it? A bit of
it is.
Musketeers or whatever.
Yeah, and I don't know whether I like it really, but I know what you're saying. In the context of this film, it is definitely a highlight, and it's a memorable scene, it must be said.
Definitely, yeah.
But yeah, it does feel a bit adventure movie choreographed, staged. It's very difficult because the world changed so dramatically between this film and the next one that it's like when you look at those frantic fights like GoldenEye, like the casino stair fight, Bond and Red Grant, the kitchen fight in Daylights, they're all frantic, brilliant fights that you just, I always think that...
You can't breathe almost, can you? Like your heart's going and everything like that.
That's what you want from a Bond fight. And like that scene in the kitchen where he picks up the pan and lobs it at the dude and he just ducks. Good. It's like, shit, dude, if he hadn't have ducked in time, that would have cracked him across the face, that boiling hot pan. So there's that real sense of real jeopardy. And you're almost, even if you weren't thinking in terms of the film and you were like, that stuntman nearly got twatted with a boiling hot saucepan. It's that stuff that really excites you. And this just feels like Pirates of the Caribbean, I guess. It feels like a light-hearted children's adventure movie rather than what you really want. But yeah, so Bond bests him. First cut from the first blood drawn from the torso, isn't it?
That's
in
right,
the fountain, boom, there it is. Job's a good one. So Blades, I didn't clock that it was called Blades actually, but Blades is where M used to hang out, wasn't it? That was his
in
gentleman's club.
Because a lot of this was obviously based on Moonraker, the novel, in terms of the character of Graves, this aristocrat, a knight, a sir, who is a multimillionaire, philanthropist and stuff. So they based quite a lot of the Hugo Drax novel on Graves. Equally, I would say Blofeld from Diamonds, because you got this diamond laser in space, and again with him, he had a different identity with Willard White, and also some sort of surgery going on as part of the plot. But anyway,
Who's the dude, man? That dude with the dreads that comes up to him at the end. I know I've seen him before, and who is he?
He's a show jumper. He's a UK show jumper called Oliver Skeet. So he's not actually an actor. He's from the show jumping world, but I actually like it. I think his chemistry with Pierce is good, and he's got like a nice little sort of comedic warmth between the two of them.
It was one of those. I'm like, I know that dude from something, and I thought he was an athlete or something. I guess he is. That you classed that as an athlete, but I didn't know. But there you go, Oliver Skeet. Good knowledge. Nice one.
So basically, then I do like the fact that, even though Bond's just bested Gustav, he's happy to admit that straight away, and he says, "Right, that's fine." A lot of this was shot at the Reform Club, where, funnily enough, they went for Quantum of Solace. So you'll notice a lot of similar sort of like the lobby areas, the same and stuff. But anyway, so he goes down, and Graves pays him off, and basically said he's going to do a demonstration in Iceland and invites him along. Doesn't quite let on what it's about, you know. I think he might mention Icarus, I think. And then Gustav leaves, and then we've got Bond and Miranda, and Bond says, "Well, I have the pleasure of you in Iceland." And Frost is like, "Oh, I'm afraid you'll never have that pleasure." Famous last word sort of thing. But that's quite cool. And then obviously they leave, and then Bond meets the concierge who gives him that package, and there's a key inside. So overall, I think the Blade scene, for me, it's one of the better scenes in the film, definitely.
Yeah, and I do like that. That's like a Roger throwback, isn't it? That last line, "Will I have the pleasure of you in Iceland?" It's like, "Do you come with a suite?" You know, it's that kind of stuff, which I miss so much, man. I do love that stuff. So yeah, that's nice.
All right then. So the next bit, we're back in London with Bond. Obviously, he's got the key, and we see by Westminster Bridge, there's that little door that he goes in, which so many people have been to now. It is great, the classic Die Another Day door. And apparently the people inside were so sort of, basically they had people knocking on the door every single day, and they were like, "Yes, James Bond has been here. No, there's nothing here apart from a cupboard," or whatever. I think it was like a little security firm, and it's a tiny little room there or something. But I that's something else I like, and I do like this bit. The fact that I love sort of secrecy. I like hidden. You know, I like trapdoors, secret corridors, and all this sort of stuff. And the fact that MI6 has got sort of a bit of an underground thing going on, and it's accessed through a door that, in general, millions of people walk past like every month. Yeah. No one would have an idea, but yet there's a special key, and it gets you in there to this underground thing. And I like it. I like it a lot, Tom.
I like that too. That's a nice little touch. I do like that sense of secrecy in plain sight. Like the thing I find a bit disappointing is the MI6 building, as iconic as that kind of is. And every time you go past it in London, you're like, "Look, that's the MI6 building." But it's like, I kind of prefer it when it's all underground, when it's like M's, the discrete Universal Export office opposite Regent's Park or overlooking Regent's Park. And it's all undercover. It's just the little brass plaque on the wall, and nobody knows what it is. That to me is great. I don't really like this big overt, "Here's where all the spies are" building. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's that. So this kind of thing is great. It's like an old World War II dead drop or something. You know what I mean? It's that kind of vibe, isn't it? Especially at such an iconic location as well, just across from Lazenby Lamppost on the other side of the bridge, isn't it?
Exactly. Westminster Bridge has been in a lot of Bond films, hasn't it? Obviously, Spectre as well, with the helicopter and stuff. But anyway, so Bond, he goes into the underground, into Vauxhall Cross Station, which is a nice little bit, and M is there to meet him. So last time we saw her, she was basically saying, "Oh, you know, we don't have any need for you," or whatever. You know, she basically had no time for Bond. Now she's obviously interested in what he has to say. So they walk past this sort of shooting range, and M asks Bond about Graves and what he knows, and he asks her the same, and she basically said, well, he's an orphan who used to work in an Argentinian diamond mine, learned engineering, and then made a huge find in Iceland and gave half of it to charity. And then Bond informs M about the DNA clinic, what happened there, and shows her sort of the diamonds that he got from Zal's necklace, and thinking that it's a front for laundering conflict diamonds, which then M says, okay, you know, he's politically corrected, politically what's the word I'm looking for? Connected, I guess. Basically, don't go too hard on him because we've got to be discreet
I see.
about it.
Yeah. He's got friends in high places, basically.
Yeah,
is what you're saying.
it's a classic Jeffrey Keane thing of, we've got to be discreet when we're.
Max Zorin, he's one of the leaders industrialists.
Yeah,
Well,
exactly. So is that sort of vibe going on? So she wants Bond to investigate, but just to be discreet about it, and basically says, it seems you've become useful again. So I like that. We've had being not wanting anything to do with Bond, and now after what's happened, she's obviously keen on him becoming involved again. Yeah. And I think this scene with M is good. I think Pierce and Judi Dench have good chemistry in their scenes, and this is a decent one, I think. The next scene is an interesting one. So we're talking about a scene where Bond is in his office, which is great because apart from Majesty's, is that the only other time we see him in his office at work? Might be.
I think so.
Yeah, so it's great, and I love the fact that he's cleaning out his well for P99. He's just with the little brushes, and that's something Bond would probably do. Yeah, and I love the fact that his office is nothing spectacular, but it's got little models of ships and big models of ships and paintings of ships to show his naval background. There's a few documents, just the usual thing. It's quite realistic looking, but here's a couple of gunshots. It's like, we're obviously in MI6. What's going on? Gets a gun, leaves his office, sees a couple of bodies on the floor, and we see Moneypenny's been shot. And then you're like, fuck, what's going on? And then basically he continues down, and then this is a point where it feels a bit like a video game. So he's shooting a guy up there, shooting one down there, and all this sort of stuff. And then it gets to, he sees Robinson, doesn't he? And they both go towards M's office, and Robinson gets shot. M is held under gunpoint, and then Bond obviously shoots a couple, and then takes aim.
Well, you see Moneypenny dead, don't you, as well?
We see Moneypenny dead initially, which is pretty crazy. And then he takes aim at M, the one holding M, and obviously shoots him. And then it sort of merges into that thing where Q comes on, and we see it's all been a VR exercise. He presses the bit on his glasses, and it changes. Yeah. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, let's look at this, man, because this is nearly 20 years old, isn't it? Right, 2002. Yeah. Where was technology at the time? What was the console of the day? Was that the PlayStation 2 at that point? I don't know.
2002. So that would have been N64, would it? Just after N64.
Probably. I'm guessing it's. Like let me see.
N64 was 99, 2000.
Yeah, because obviously GoldenEye came out on that. Hold on. Let me do some of the thrilling podcast googling. PlayStation 2 release. Yeah. PlayStation 2 is the 4th of March 2000. Right.
Oh, there you go.
So everybody's at home playing their clunky PlayStations back in the day. Yeah. Virtual reality is still a cool concept to this day, isn't it? But back then it's even more magical. Yeah. So it's a funny one, a sequence like this, because you see something so shocking as Moneypenny dead, and you're like, holy shit. Yeah. And then, he shoots M, flesh wound, shoots the other people, and then you find out that it's a VR experience. For me, I feel like that's just a bit of a cheap shot to try and get like an empty thrill out of you. Because it's like when you have something like, I can think of a handful of scenes in Game of Thrones which were truly shocking, and you're like, oh, I can't believe they did that, and there's a thrill to that. You see Moneypenny dead and you're like, holy shit. And then to have it cancelled out a minute later is kind of like, oh yeah, that's funny, but it's also a bit cheap at the same time for me. And I guess thinking of the technology of the day, virtual reality is this cool futuristic thing, I guess, and still is in a lot of ways, even though it's come a long way. But I don't know. I'm not a big fan of it, if I'm honest. No. What do you think?
I like imagine watching it for the first time, which for you is only a couple of watches ago. but and I like the actual scene was probably, in terms of being tense, was probably the best scene in the series, in the film, sorry, in terms of thinking, well, hang on a minute, Bond's tense. We've seen Moneypenny, like you said. And if that had happened for real, you'd be thinking, everyone would be talking about that scene. Wow, that scene where Moneypenny was killed, that was amazing. Obviously, it's difficult because Moneypenny is such a huge character, and they'd never go down that route. Whereas obviously shows like Game of Thrones made a name of themselves for killing off main characters, but there were so many of them. Whereas obviously there's nowhere near as many in this. And I think you're right. Like during that moment, it is like, oh God, this is immense. But if it was real, it would feel so out of place with the rest of the film because it's actually quite nicely shot, this scene. Yeah. And the editing's pretty decent on it for once compared to the rest of the film. And because it's like that, it wouldn't feel right because the rest of the film is just so different.
Yeah,
so it had to go that way, but it's a shame. But the actual scene itself, forgetting the concept, the scene itself I think is decent. It's just the concept itself, it's not quite there, I don't
Fair point. It would be, if you were going to kill off Moneypenny, it's the wrong film to do that.
Yeah,
if you were ever going to do that. Yeah, absolutely. But interesting. So that segues us into the Q scene, basically, isn't it? And we've got a new Q. Last time he was R. He was officially credited as R in the credits of The World Is Not Enough. So he was R, even though it was just like a little quip from Bond. Now Desmond's left us, God bless him, and we're left with John Cleese, and he is now actually Q.
Do you think he should have remained as R or not? Or
no.
should he be Q?
No, I don't think he should have remained as R because that was just
Q
a
is
joke.
quartermaster, isn't it? It's not like...
and now he is the quartermaster.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
he works in Q branch, so he is Q.
Yeah.
But I don't know how I feel. I really genuinely don't know how I feel. I like John Cleese. I think he's great. Is he Q material? I don't know. But here's the thing, though. His dialogue in this is absolutely atrocious, and it's just horrible. And the poor bastard, as good as John Cleese is at everything I've seen him in, he's a really good comedic actor and a very bright, intelligent dude as a person. He is saying some of the most inane drivel in this, and nobody can work with that. If that was Desmond saying it, he would win some points because it's Desmond, and we all love Desmond. There's nobody that doesn't love Desmond and has a smile when he pops up on screen. But even if it was Desmond saying it, it would be a bit like, this is a bit of a lame Q scene. You know what I mean? How do you feel about that? John Cleese, Q, first of all. What do you think about that?
Firstly, I feel that he's much more comfortable as Q in this film as he was compared to R in World Is Not Enough. I think he was too jokey, that bit too slapstick with the jacket and everything. I think in this one, he's much more in the mould of the Q that I'd like to see if he were to play it. I think Cleese probably needed another film or two just to see what he'd be like. And I love him. I think he's a brilliant actor. It's so hard to follow on from Desmond. You can't. Anyone that did. I mean, Ben Whishaw are outstanding. I absolutely think he's an amazing Q, but I think anyone to follow on from Desmond was always going to have a tough time. But I do think John Cleese is better in this film than the previous one. But again, it's a die. There are a couple of lines that I don't mind, actually. I do like the "you're cleverer than you look." Oh, well, better than being cleverer than you are. I think that's a really good line. It is clever in itself, and I think it works well. And it's them against each other. But some of the other stuff is pretty shoddy.
There's that line where he introduces the car and he says it's the Vanquish, but we call it the Vanish. Yeah. You must be joking. There's a little Easter egg for us all. Yeah. And then he says, I wish I could make you vanish. And to me, that's like, but in my mind's ear, I can hear Desmond saying that. And Desmond would have delivered it differently. And he would have almost done it with a chuckle. You know, and if I hear Desmond's voice saying, I wish I could make you vanish, and having a little chuckle, I love that.
I can hear it.
You know what I mean?
You can play it, can't you, for Desmond's voice, which is really interesting.
And I love that. But the way it's done here, I don't like it.
Yeah.
And the way, the way he calls him 000, I mean, that's not even an insult to anybody. Like, if you were 5 years old and you called somebody 000, you would know it was a lame insult even when you were 5. You know, it's just not what you want.
No. Well, what did you think of the actual workshop? We got all these throwbacks. So quite most of them from Octopussy actually. So we got the Acrostar, we got the crocodile sub, we got that rope. The sort of vertical rope thing. We had the From Russia with Love briefcase. There are a couple of things I don't get with the other ones. So firstly, the jetpack is clearly not the Thunderbolt jetpack. Why? If you can't get it, build a replica of it.
Yeah.
If you don't want to build a replica of it, why have one in there at all?
That is
Because
a
Bond
funny one.
presses it and he's like, oh, this still works. Well, no, that's got nothing to do with it. You've never seen this jetpack before, Bond. Why have you even done that? It pisses me off.
How angry you're getting.
No, it's lazy, Tom. It's fucking lazy. And it really annoys me. And also the shoe. That's not Rosa Klebb's shoe. That is a prototype that they used of Rosa Klebb's shoe, but it's not the shoe that was used in the film. Again, why have they got it?
Yeah.
Why is he playing around with it? It's not right. They should have the real things or replica the real things.
Secondly,
Don't use.
when did he
bullshit
stop and take Rosa
substitutes.
Klebb's shoes off? If that
Well,
was what we're led to believe.
Yeah,
You
exactly.
know, she's just been shot by
Yeah.
Tatiana. Does he go,
Yeah.
hold on a minute,
Oh.
love, I've just got to pick these shoes off. And then
He's a shoe man. He has a
he's-
little sniff or something.
you know what I mean? Exactly. Like, but yeah, I know. And we are sounding dangerously like those basement dwelling film geeks at the moment.
Yeah.
But it's a part of the overall experience of the film, isn't it? It's that thing of, like we were saying, of Jinx doing that awful, horrendous dive off the top when you could have done that properly, and that would have been a thrilling thing to see somebody do that properly. Or,
Yeah, definitely.
You know, and I guess it just lines up with that thing of if it being a bit half-assed and not taking care of the details, you know. But yeah, again, it's one of those things where I like the idea of Q's workshop being this sort of like Aladdin's cave of gadgets.
Yeah.
You know, I do like that. And having all those past things crop up, I just think it's a little bit too much.
I think it was done better in Majesties
Well,
when he had
do you know what?
when he
Yeah.
had Honey Rider's knife and the Thunderbolt Rebreather. And
That
the
was
Red
precisely
Guard's
what was
watch.
about to come out of my mouth, man.
Yeah.
When you see Bond sit at his desk and take a few little trinkets out, that's nice. I
Yeah.
like that. When it's just thrown in your face like that, I don't know, man. It's just a bit too cartoony and a bit much for my taste. Which brings us, Chris, to the car.
Yeah. Well, first of all, he gets the ring, doesn't he? So
Yeah.
I think that's an interesting gadget. I don't mind the ring.
Yeah,
So
I'll
it's a
give you that.
sonic agitator unit or something. Basically, it's high frequency, shoots the glass, puts a ring up against it, and it shatters. And I think that's a decent enough gadget.
Yeah.
I'm all
That's
right with that. I'm
within
down
the
with that one.
boundaries of reality. You could imagine
Yeah.
something like that working, couldn't you?
And
Yeah.
he gets his 20th watch. We don't hear what it does. Obviously, we'll see later on. But she gets those two. And then the car.
Right.
Yeah.
So the thing is, with Bond, let's go back to something a little bit more basic but real. So you look at something like the digital watch in Live and Let Die. At the time, that was like a whoa, look at that. That's space age, right? Now, digital watches are just bog standard. Nobody gives a shit. So you want Bond's gadgets, as far as I'm concerned, to exist within the boundaries of real life, whereby maybe Bond is 5 to 10 years ahead of what you see in the shops right now. That it's cool enough. Like, you remember that the phone in Tomorrow Never Dies? What your phone was in 97 was just this little brick that made calls and do some texts. Now we've all got these amazing computers in our pockets that do all this incredible shit. So Bond's phone isn't cool anymore because we all have that. But that was a good, iPhone, I think, came out in 2007-ish, the late 2000s, whenever. So it's like, that's a good example of being about 10 years away from what we currently have. And I feel like that's what Bond's gadgets should be. It should be just a bit beyond what we already have in our lives in a cool way. Now, that technology does exist. There is the technology, and what it is it's a camera on one side that films and then projects that film onto the opposite side. So if you're looking at it, you're seeing what's on the other side of it from your perspective, if that makes sense. So that is a real thing. And you can look at that on YouTube and see that technology. But what it does is it doesn't make it invisible. It's a bit like the Predator in the sense that you see this sort of distorted thing. It's like a fuzzy blob, and that's that. So it's like, okay, we are 100% within the realms of reality with that technology. However, it doesn't make it completely invisible like we see it in the film. And when I say Bond has an invisible car, like just a bit of puke comes up into my throat when I even think those words, you know?
Yeah.
It's just, it's just too much, man. Like I could understand it if it was done in a more realistic fashion. And there is a little bit of that where they almost do that Predator effect at times.
I was going to say later on when he's in the ice palace and you can see the outline of it against the snow or whatever.
Yeah.
And if it stayed like that the whole time, I'd be a lot happier.
I still wouldn't like
better.
it that much, but I would be happier.
Yeah.
That's true. But it's too fantastical, man. It's too fantastical. Whatever happens in the closing sequences of Moonraker is nothing compared to this. You know, it's like laser battles in space. Yeah, of course that went too far. But an invisible car just seems so cartoon-like. Do you know what I mean? It's like something Danger Mouse would have, not James Bond.
Yeah.
You know?
Well,
how do you
they
feel?
tried to, I don't know if you saw it. So the first time I heard about this technology, I think it was used on clothing in Japan, and they were wearing these jackets that had these little cameras. But it was only on the front and the back. You couldn't see it on the sleeves. So the sleeves were normal, I think. Yeah. And you could see, and it looked interesting. But as people moved, obviously, you could see there's some sort of crazy movement there. And I think there was a Top Gear episode where they tried to do an invisible car by projecting what was on one side of the car to the other and vice versa. Have you seen that Top Gear episode?
I haven't, but I remember that being a thing.
But it looked absolutely like ridiculous. Like it didn't work, basically. Definitely not how it did in the film.
Yeah, that's it. And it's to me, it's what that should be is like normal camouflage, right? If you're a soldier and you wear head to toe camouflage, kind of like the closing scene of GoldenEye. You're lying amongst the brush and you blend in. If you're wearing a bright orange jacket, you're still going to be seen. But if you wear that, you blend in, right? If you're looking directly at that person and you're an inch away, you're going to see that there's a human there. And it's that same idea. If you're going to have some sort of camouflage for your car, it needs to be that, where it's like just that little bit of assistance. So if you're not looking directly at it, you might miss it if you're walking past. Rather than it just completely vanishing and just it's too sci-fi, man. That
no, I'm totally agree with you, but we'll see. What did you think of the whole bit where Q hands Bond that manual and he's like, this should take you a few hours, and he chucks it up and then the car
I loved it,
took
mate.
a few seconds, Q.
Favorite part of the whole film, that, mate. Yeah, absolutely. Some would say that's what they should have done with the script, but it's all just a bit too silly, you know. And it's that some of that dialogue is horrendous, and it's that thing of if you're going to have an invisible car, it fits in with the feeling of this whole film, really, doesn't it? But it's not right.
But the thing is, like I was saying before, I think they put so much effort into adding all these details and throwbacks and homages and stuff that maybe they just didn't spend enough time on the things that mattered.
No.
Like in this scene, for instance, behind the car, there's that poster on the wall with a sailor, the cigarettes. Do you remember that one?
I didn't.
So that's a reference to the Thunderball novel. I think Domino mentioned something like she was infatuated or something with the sailor from the posters from the players' cigarettes or whatever. And I think it's a blowback on that. But also, Sean Connery was a naval officer at HMS Excellent, which is where the sailor's from. In gunnery school, and there's some really cool pictures of Connery back in the day when he was a naval officer, and they're worth looking at. But if you go into that much detail to put in stuff like this in the background, that should be secondary. It shouldn't be the main thing you focus on. You should get the script right, the story right.
Yeah.
And I think it was just too distracted by everything going on. That's what it feels like. Anyway.
Yeah, that whole sequence, the torture sequence and stuff, feels like that just belongs to a completely different film, doesn't it? Really?
Yeah,
it's when you compare within an hour, he's driving around in an invisible car and having laser fights with some dude with a comb stuck in his hair,
which we'll get to,
obviously. It's just like it's just ultimately, I hate saying it, man, I really do, I take no pleasure in this, but it's just a disaster.
Well, let's carry on. We never know,
let's continue.
It might get better. Tom.
It might, man. Yeah, I'm hoping for some good
look at
action
the
set
positive
pieces
side.
to call me back.
So next scene, we're back at MI6. So this time, M's chatting, and we've discovered that, hang on a minute, Frost actually works for MI6. So she's an agent. Bond isn't aware at that time that she works for MI6. Basically, Frost has been investigating Graves over the last however long it's been, but hasn't been able to get any dirt on him. But Frost tells M that Graves is clean and tries to discourage her from sending Bond to Iceland. But M basically says, well, hang on a minute. I am sending him Bond because I need him to mix things up a little. And so I think M at this point definitely has some inkling that Frost isn't 100% clean herself.
Right.
Because I think the fact that she's not dished up anything on Graves, I think M is already thinking, well, hang on a minute. I'm not 100% about this. I want Bond there just to see, just I'd send him anyway, but I think that's part of the reasoning for M as well.
Fair
I
play.
imagine
She's very smart, so I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so then we go to Iceland. Now, this is another thing that pisses me off. We've got this amazing location, right? Like frozen lakes, icebergs, amazing mountains. Iceland's probably one of the most beautiful countries in the world. And we get another one of those crash zoom things where it flies into Bond driving the car, and it's so fucking shit. It's like it's sort of student filmmaking in terms of trying all these techniques out just to try them out. You shouldn't be doing that in a film like this. Like there are certain films where that works. Bond film isn't one of them. Because it's particularly when it's such a nice location. But anyway, so Bond arrives at the Ice Palace, which itself looks pretty dosh. When they're driving up and it's in the distance, you can tell it's all fake. It's not great, really. He drives up to the Ice Palace, and that's where we meet Mr. Kill. And this is another thing that gets me, just boils my blood a little bit. It's just like, so he gets out, I am Mr. Kill. Oh, there's a name to die for. And Tom, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do because at that point, I just wanted to chuck the controller at the TV or do something. It's the sole reason for that name is for that lame, corny one-liner piece of garbage.
Right? We had that with Christmas Jones. The only reason she's called Christmas Jones is so you can have that line at the end of the film. I don't mind that. I like that line. It makes me laugh. I do enjoy it. I know a lot of people don't, but I do like that.
It's awful.
Mr. Kill is just horrendous. Oh God!
Why?
He.
Again, it's schoolboy writing. It's school kid writing. Isn't it?
Here's the thing, man. Here's how you make a good henchman, right? Let's look back at some of the biggest, best henchmen. Straight away, let's go back to Odd Job, right? He's probably one of the most iconic, if not the most iconic. He doesn't say a word. He knocks out a couple of RRs, right? We'll forgive him that. He doesn't say a word. And there's that silent menace, which is brilliant. He's just a brick shithouse, basically. And he's tough and he's got this wicked hat that does, decapitates people, right? Don't say a word. Jaws, another one, massive. Doesn't say a word. We'll forget about the end of Moonraker. It doesn't say a word. It's just silent menace. Locke even. Locke doesn't say a word. Silent menace. Let's look at Hinks.
Well, I think Red Grant, because obviously when he finally meets Bond, there's a lot of chat.
Yeah.
But when he's stalking Bond, he's silent. You see him in the background. And again, that's the menace, isn't it? That's what you need.
Indeed. There's that sense of menace. You don't walk up to somebody and go, I'm Mr. Kill. You just don't. Can you imagine if Jaws did that? If Jaws rocks up and just goes, my name's Jaws. You'd be like, you've just ruined everything. If you'd have just stood there looking cool with the teeth, man, you would have been the business. But oh man, Mr. Kill, dude, Mr. Cunt. That's what I'm renaming him as because he is one. I don't care what anybody says. All right, that's his official name from now on.
Mr. Dogshit, Mr. Cunt,
Mr. Kill, and like the fact that his special thing is this little fucking comb in his head. My memory was that I thought it was like two knitting needle type things that you'd pull out, but it isn't. Is it?
It's basically a hairpin, isn't it? It's like a bone hairpin, I think, like a sharp bone.
Right.
Hairpin.
Yeah. I don't like it, whatever it is.
No.
Yeah. And there's a name to die for.
It's horrible.
Do you know what? I'm not even that averse to the name Mr. Kill. Right. It's obvious, but it's like it's not. It's passable in a not that good film, but it's the whole package. I'm sure he's a nice guy. No qualms with the actor, but Mr. Kill as a henchman is so. We've already got a henchman. We've already got Zhao. We don't need another one. Why have we suddenly got this geezer? Yeah. Oh my God!
Anyway,
that's
so
actually
that.
Mr. Kill is one of the biggest painful things in this.
Yeah, but again, it's absolute stupidity in terms of why they'd use it, because the character could still be in there and just not say anything.
Yeah.
And just be an intimidating, sizable guy.
Yeah.
Or I don't know, but just not that. Right, okay, so swiftly moving on. Bond, he basically then sees Graves in the ice dragster going on. Now, I do like the fact that Graves is like an adrenaline junkie, a bit of an adventurer, as he calls it. He's into flirting with death a little bit. And I like that, and I think that's good, and it adds to his character. And then we get this line where he goes, it's only by being on the edge that we know who we are under the skin. And obviously the under the skin is a hint at what's truly going on. And I think that's not a bad little hint.
All right, yeah.
But then we go into the Ice Palace itself, and it looks a bit like... have you ever seen Batman and Robin? Is that the one with Mr. Freeze?
I've said this before, man. This is Bond's Batman and Robin, where everything is just too far. Nipples on the batsuit. That's what you have in this film, basically. Yeah.
It's ridiculous, but it's kind of got that feel, hasn't it?
It certainly does, yeah.
And basically, Bond then sees Frost, and he learns that the diamond mine and Graves' quarters are next door to the Ice Palace. Then we see Jinx arrive in a Ford Thunderbird. That's a little touch to Fleming, because he used to drive a Ford Thunderbird back in the day. So I think, subtle little things like that are nice.
You know what? Something you touched upon just now, actually, that I forgot to mention. That whole, what's it called now? The whole, that vehicle dragster thing.
Ice dragster or something like that.
And he mentions this land speed record or whatever, isn't it? As he's coming. And I thought that struck me as that's a very nice thing. That strikes me as something that belongs to the world of Bond. Like, do you remember it was Bluebird, wasn't it? And all those vehicles back in the day.
He mentions Bluebird in the film.
That were all trying to hit that land speed record and that race to be the fastest. Like, that to me screams Bond. And if that sort of super rich kind of dude who can afford to be in that world, like that I do like that. That's a nice touch. Yeah,
that definitely feels Bondian, doesn't it? That sort of thing. So we like that. And then Bond comes down. They arrive for the party. Bond's dressed up in his DJ, and we get a bit of Madonna instrumental, which I know you were keen on. And now we get this line. So this is the whole, oh, you're a big boy. I thought you could handle yourself. And it's just, it's painful, isn't it? It's painful. And then Zhao arrives wearing something like he's in a slasher movie or something. That big hooded jacket, like I Know What You Did Last Summer or something like that, which looks a bit strange. He goes to see Graves, who's on the Dream Machine. And I actually quite like the Dream Machine. I think it's an interesting concept. Obviously, he can't sleep. He's got insomnia. Which is part of his whole thing. Why sleep now? Sleep when you're dead, sort of thing. And it looks a bit weird, but I think it's all right. I quite like the Dream Machine. And then we then realised Graves is actually Moon. Him and Zhao
Right.
sort of chat.
Let's talk about this.
Yeah.
Graves is actually Moon.
Yes.
Moon is a North Korean general.
Yes.
Gustav Graves is...
his dad was a general. He was a colonel.
Colonel. My apologies. Thank you. Gustav Graves is a very upper-class British man.
Yes.
Now, what do you think the time difference is between Moon going off the waterfall?
Well, he's got 14 months, hasn't he, of Bond when he did the
okay,
thing. So it's
so
got to
there's
be
that.
at least 14.
And then Graves
Well,
showing
actually-
up. So what are we saying? Is the events of this, is it literally immediately after the 14 months? How much time do you think passes by the time Bond has a shave and gets back on the job?
It's not long, I don't think, because he breaks out, doesn't he? And then he goes straight to Cuba. And then, so I think it's short because they said that Grave had this find in Iceland just over a year ago or something. So that ties into the 14 months that he suddenly appeared.
Okay,
But then how long does the actual process take of him, doing the thing that Zhao was halfway through?
So let's look at that then. So 14 months ago, he goes off the bridge. They find the diamonds a year ago. So 2 months after he's gone off the bridge, that means he's already come out the other end, changed his face, come up with the Gustav Graves identity, discovered the diamonds in Iceland, donated half of it to charity.
Set up his ice palace and all that sort of stuff.
That's a pretty high achieving individual, isn't it?
Well, yeah, he's a Bond villain. What do you say?
How do you feel about this, man? The whole face change thing.
Well, it is a bit of bollocks, isn't it? I guess it's a bit like, again, Diamonds Are Forever with the whole copies, isn't it, of Blofeld and stuff. It's it's very, very, very far fetched. I guess this even more so with the whole changing everything. I guess there is a bit in reality of it being done, but the logistics and everything probably don't add up, even though that's something when you're watching a Bond film.
Well, that's something I need from this film, Chris. I need the logistics to add up, like with the invisible car, I want it to be like that. Fuck, yeah. All right, let's continue.
Right, where were we? Okay, so Party and Dream Machine, oh God, and then we get even more dialogue that I get my puke bucket out for. So it's like, oh, so who are you? And she says, Jinx says she's Miss Swift from Space and Technology magazine. And then Frost is like, oh, I'm sure Bond has been explaining his Big Bang Theory. And then,
what does that even mean?
What does it's
if somebody,
absolute...
if you said, if you were at a party like that and somebody said that, you'd instantly be like, oh God, here we go. Yeah. We've got one of these now, and you'd make any excuse to leave and go and talk to somebody else, wouldn't you?
Yeah. I take it Mr. Bond has been explaining his Big Bang Theory. And then even worse is a comeback. Oh, I think I got the thrust of it. And it's like...
What I like here is in your notes next to those quotes, you wrote, "This is fucking disgraceful."
It is though, man. It really is. It is fucking disgraceful.
It is, isn't it? Oh, good God.
It's again, this, it'd be really interesting to see that script, the pre-Tamahori script, because Purvis and Wade have made some brilliant sort of contributions to Bond, loads of brilliant stuff. I'd love to see if any of this terrible dialogue was their idea, or if it was written because Tamahori was telling them to go down that path. And it'd be really interesting to find out.
It would be, wouldn't it? Because it's like I'm deeply interested in the development of this, but I don't know if those scripts are out there. I did a little bit of Googling and I couldn't really find anything, but if those scripts are out there, if anybody in the JBR family knows, has a PDF of any of the scripts or whatever, let us know, because I would love to read them and see what happened and glean as much as I can about this, because it just is so terrible. The thing that puzzles me even more is obviously with Danny Boyle, they had some sort of falling out or disagreement, maybe it wasn't a falling out. Maybe it was just a graceful parting of the ways because they wanted to go in different directions. But ultimately, that Barbara and Michael, and probably Daniel as well, have their idea of what they want to do within the boundaries of what they want to do, and they bring the director in. And if somebody has too much of a radical idea they don't like, then the director buggers off and they get somebody else in. And it's like, at what point? Because the thing is, they knew this film was a disaster because everything changed after this. That everything changed.
Its critical reception must have been bloody awful.
Well,
I'm assuming, I can't remember, but
I remember it being reviewed quite well. I remember seeing Paul Ross on morning breakfast television saying the new Bond film was absolutely fantastic, and it made a lot of money. Yeah. But at what point did they go into this thinking, this is good? And it wasn't until afterwards where they finally sat down and watched it that they went, oh shit, what have we done?
Yeah.
Or not. I'd love to know where that happened. Because I remember Roger's review of it, when they asked him what he thought of the film outside the Albert Hall after he'd watched it, and he went, it was interesting. That was the only thing he said. That is
so polite and diplomatic of him.
And that's what you're going to get from Roger, isn't it? What a gentleman. If they'd have asked me, I'd have been crying on the floor. But so it's very interesting because compare this to From Russia with Love, or Goldfinger, or even Spy, or even Moonraker. It's like, it's just so bad. I'm so sorry to everybody listening at home, man. I really want to get something positive out of this, but it's so difficult. Anyway, what happens next?
How different would it have been if we'd watched it and recorded it live to see our live reactions? Would it have just been loads of
It would have been. Well, we planned to do that, didn't we? You were going to come over, but everybody's been locked down in Cardiff, haven't they? So we had to do it old-fashioned.
I know, it's a bit of a shame.
But
okay, so after that, basically, everyone goes outside for the demonstration of Icarus, and they all put their shades on as Gustav Graves basically tells them how Icarus is gonna change their world. So it's meant to basically bring light and heat to the world, so for the betterment of everyone. And he basically gives a demonstration and it lights up the thing. I don't know what. In terms of Icarus and stuff, what are your feelings on that?
Well, it is a Bond thing. We've had powerful satellites before, haven't we?
Diamond satellites.
Yeah.
Indeed.
We've had the GoldenEye satellite. We've had the Moonraker space station. The Diamonds Are Forever satellite. So that is within the realms of Bond we've seen before. It brings light to Earth. I don't quite know why you'd want to do that, really. What's the point of Icarus?
Solar energy.
Is that what it? Okay, that's all right.
Supposedly for the better of the world, bringing heat and light, so for crops. So basically, he says so people wouldn't starve, so they could always.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So there is that sort of.
Do you know what's really weird about this for me, man? Is that it's so strange for me to have a Bond film that I really don't know very well at all.
Yeah. I should have asked you that at the very start. Obviously, I was going to ask you at the end, but let's segue in that now. What was it like to see a film that you hadn't seen for 18 years, a Bond film? Did it almost feel like it was a new one, or did everything come back as you watched it? What was that experience like? Because everyone listening, I bet there's not one person listening now who has had an 18-year gap since watching a Bond film.
I do know one. Dan Gale seen it even less than me. He saw it once and never saw it again, and that was it. And that was it.
Well done, Gale.
So there you go. It was strange, and there were some things that I remembered a bit differently, but it was all still in there. It was all sort of burned into my mind on some level. But it was very strange. But it's that thing of like those silly little details where you can knock out a quote from a Bond film that's the most just random thing that somebody in the background says, and you or I will probably get it after a couple of guesses. This film, I don't have that. I feel so disconnected from it as a film and as a Bond film that it's really strange to me. Yeah. It's a funny one.
and probably a good thing as well. In
Yeah.
terms of, because if anyone was saying "die another day" dialogue, you'd probably run a mile anyway.
I would
Just
indeed,
get
yeah.
out there as soon as you can. Okay, so then after the demonstration, Bond basically watches Mr. Kill and Vlad taking the Icarus controls into the sort of biome, the secure building, and this is silly. So rather than just creeping up, he basically gets in the Aston and follows them in that because it's invisible. But would they? He's right behind the guards. Would they not hear the sound of the engine and the wheels in the snow and stuff like that? So
Yeah.
I mean that's another bit of a silly thing. Vlad then shows Graves the power suit mechanism, and this is all getting a bit weird now. Bond is caught snooping around, an alarm is set off, and then basically Frost kind of rescues him, doesn't she? So she pulls him in, and they start kissing, and there are a couple of nice moments here. I do like the line that Frost says about sex for dinner, death for breakfast, and all that sort of stuff. Obviously, throwback to Majesty's novel and stuff, the chapter. That's a really nice line. That's obviously Fleming. It's a great line.
Yeah.
They carry on kissing, and Frost basically says, "Oh, are they still watching?" And Bond's like, "Oh no, they left ages ago."
I like that.
And I like that as well. Yeah,
That raised a smile for me.
That I think that whole that mini little segment is good. And while that's going on, Jinx is sort of broken into the biome, rappelled down, and she's basically on the hunt. She then finds Zao. He's now on the Dream Machine, but she gets zapped by Graves in the suit. What are your opinions on this suit then? Like this, the electric shock hand and the controls for Icarus and all this sort of stuff. It's a bit weird, isn't
It's
it?
awful. Again, I wish I had something positive to say, but it's awful. It's so comic book and not. This is not Bond, and you don't need a suit to control the fucking thing. You sit down at a computer, or you have one of your underlings sit at a computer, or you have a danger wheel on the wall, and you go turn up the danger wheel, and they turn up the danger wheel so there's just the right amount of danger, and then it warms everybody up, grows some crops, and you turn the danger wheel down. You never turn the danger wheel up to 10 because that's too dangerous. That's how you control it. You don't need a suit. The suit's just there to look like. I don't know what it looks like, man. It's not good.
It is awful, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, so Jinx then, when she comes to, she kind of strapped to this sort of maneuverable table, and she sort of Mr. Killer's there and Zauer's there, and oh no, I just remembered what else she says now. What is it? It's something where she basically says, Zao basically electrocutes her a bit, and I don't know if he was copping a feel or not, but anyway, he basically said to her, like, "Who sent you?" And then she does a "Yo mama" bit.
God. Oh God.
She told me to tell you she's really disappointed in you.
Oh fuck. It's just horrible.
But what I don't understand, Tom, is that how can so much shit get passed without people going, hang on a minute, do we not need to change this a bit?
This is what I'm interested in.
Because it's so
Why
much. It's
didn't
not
that
just a
happen?
little bit. It's so much. Obviously, there are the big things. Certain scene will coming up to. Well, it might be in the next part 3, but there's so much stuff. I don't understand how it's gotten. It's not been vetoed. It's not been checked. Almost. It's almost like it's just been.
The only
all
thing
been
I
accepted.
can think is that they were running so behind schedule.
Yeah.
That it was just like, shit, we've got to move, and this is all we have. You know, when you watch that script to screen documentary, that is definitely the vibe I seem to get. I don't know what the timeline was at this stage, but nobody seems to know much about what they're doing, and it all seems to be very evasive and just like not really answering things. And I'm guessing that must be it. That they kind of knew it was a stinker, but they were just doing the best with what they could, and they didn't have time to change anything, because you would have thought. You just, the caliber of those people involved. Yeah. You would just have thought that the script would have been stopped at some point, you know? As soon as somebody starts talking about invisible cars and Icarus robot bionic arms and stuff, I'm like, surely that's a no. Let's just calm down a bit. You know?
But there is that whole thing of this cyclical thing where they get really, really, really fantastical and then come back down.
Yeah.
And this was obviously as fantastical as you get with the Brosnans, but it's just crazy, isn't it? And then, so then we get to the next bit. I'm feeling like this is a struggle.
I am. I genuinely am. I don't know what this is going to be like to listen to.
Yeah, I'm really sorry. Apologies, listeners, for
people have looked forward to this for so long. And the reason why I've always been worried about this is because of exactly what it is. It's like usually you can when there's something silly that happens in a Bond film, and it's an otherwise really good film, you can laugh about it. Like The World Is Not Enough is a perfect example. Like we both said, our least favorite delivery of the James Bond line is in there, and it's cringe and blah blah blah, and all the rest of it. But there's so much to love about that film as well that it's like it's still fun to listen to. But my worry is that everybody's been so excited about listening to this episode, and then they're listening to us just moaning about it for 3 episodes, and they're like, "Oh, this wasn't as fun as I was hoping."
Who knows?
Who knows?
Right.
But anyway, what happens next?
Okay, so next, actually things, I was going to say pick up, but we'll see. So Bond uses his laser watch to cut sort of a hole in the ice, drops down, uses like a Thunderball style rebreather, not the exact one, but some similar, swims through the freezing water under the ice, somehow knew that there was a hole to the sort of biome, which was lucky. So he gets in there. He's having a little spy around, and then what happens? Oh, basically he finds Jinx, doesn't she? So she's still strapped down. The laser's coming towards her head, and he sort of turns it off. But as soon as he does, your favourite friend and mine too, Mr. Kill, turns up, grabs him, and then suddenly sets off all the lasers. So you've got like half a dozen lasers flying everywhere. Yeah. Jinx's table's moving about. They're trying to fight each other while the laser's going. The one aspect I thought was okay about it was the fact that Bond had to time his punches between the lasers to get him, and I thought you needed a bit of skill in that, and I appreciated that. But everything else about the fight, I wasn't a fan of.
No, me either. And the silly thing is you don't need Mr. Kill at all. Why is this not Zhao he's having a fight with?
Yeah,
you know, like
exactly. Yeah, why isn't it Zhao?
We've already got the henchman in Zhao. We don't need Mr. Kill at all. And it's like Zhao was here 5 minutes ago, so why can't we have the fight with him instead?
Yeah.
And the lasers again. It feels like that's the sort of thing that would happen in a computer game, doesn't it? It's like, avoid the lasers, jump over the thing, and kill this baddie. Yeah. It definitely feels like that. It's just gash, mate. And the laser going through the mouth is like a mildly eyebrow raising thing, because it's like, oh, that's a bit dark and funny looking.
Yeah.
But and I tell you what, man, I cannot bear Jinx shouting at him through that fight. It's just,
I'm going to be half the girl I used to be.
Oh God! I have literally got puke that's just rising in the back of my throat thinking about it.
I just want to edit this film and take her character out of it, and it'd be tough, but I think it can be done, and I'd love to do it, man, because she is probably my worst character in the whole series. I can't stand.
You'd say worst character in the whole series for Jinx?
Well, I'm trying to think who else. Like, obviously,
who's worse than that?
There are a couple of dodgies here and there, but I just can't stand her. But
you know what? I think you might have done it. I can't think of anybody worse than Jinx.
Like, Christmas Jones has got her moments where she's not great, but I'd still take her over Jinx.
Likeable enough, Yeah,
I think so. And how the hell has Jinx known how to master this laser machine anyway? She's not tried it before and just gone. And that's where he's got his hairpin, isn't he? And he's about to kill Bond or whatever with it. But anyway,
yeah.
So Bond rescues Jinx. She sort of informs him that Zal's there and the Dream Machine, and then Bond realises, well, hang on a minute, it didn't come from Cuba, it was already here. And this is where he thinks, okay, Graves must be Moon. So he suddenly realised. Bond basically. I do like the bit when they have to get out, and so they laser Mr. Kill's hand off and uses his hand to open the door to let them get. I think that's a nice little touch. I'll give him that. That's not bad. And then Bond basically tells Jinx to go to Frost because she's an MI6 agent and obviously will help him. And Jinx says to Bond, well, what are you going to do? And he's got some unfinished business. He's going to deal with some unfinished business. and then they go their separate ways. And I believe, are we going to go our separate ways?
All right. That's enough for today, I think. Yeah, I think...
Part 2, there we are. Part 2 of Die Another Day.
Part 2 of Die Another Day. And how are you feeling about it, Chris? Like, compared to part 1 so far, what would you say is the strongest part, 1 or 2?
1 for me by a long way, I think. Let's just have a quick look through 2. What do we have in 2 that was decent?
You liked the Blades fight, didn't you?
I thought the Blades fight was good. I actually thought the VR mission wasn't too bad in terms of how it works. The Q thing was touch and go, really. Yeah, that's probably about it. I think the Blade scene is decent. I think everything in Iceland so far has been gash. There's nothing really that's been any good in Iceland so far. Whereas 1, one had its moments. I think there were some not bad bits in part 1. But I just am really frightened. And that it's just going to get worse and worse and worse.
With this problem, Chris, because we both know that it is.
I know.
That's the worst bit. There's no saving graces here. It's not like, well, the whole film is rubbish until there's that one bit near the end where it saves itself a little bit. Yeah. There isn't that. It's just this downward
dire
spiral from start to finish.
Yeah.
Mate,
it's been tough, this, though, isn't it?
It has been tough, man, because like I said last time, the ethos of JBR is to celebrate and uplift, and it's being honest about your feelings at the same time, because it's not never talking about the negatives, because of course you do address those things, but it's not taking on that sort of sneering enjoyment about slagging something off and really
we're not enjoying it. It's painful.
Yeah.
That's what makes it even worse, is the fact we care so much about it.
That's it. And it's putting the focus on the positive things and celebrating rather than doing the opposite, which is so easy to do, isn't it? It's like you could go into any Bond forum or whatever and you'll find that stuff going on, or Facebook group or whatever, and you'll find that stuff, and it's not energizing at all or fun in my book. And this is the tricky thing, because I can barely find anything positive to say about this film. It's that terrible for me that it really is quite painful to get through this review. It really is. And damn it, man, if they hadn't delayed No Time to Die again, we could have put it back to next year, because we'd be getting ready for the build up now. But that is not how the cookie crumbled, so we had to do it. Oh, mate, I tell you what, Chris.
Yeah.
I need some cheering up again, mate. So, do you know what it's time for?
It's time for
the Guess the Quote round.
Bond. James Bond.
Beautiful. Okay, now last week, excuse me. Last week I had a quote for you, didn't I? And do you remember what it was? Do you think you got it? I'm going to give it to you again. Hold on. Here we go.
Okay.
Last week's quote was, "Put your hands back in your pockets."
That is good.
So how are you feeling? Are you confident with that one?
I think so, because the delivery, if it's the person I think it is, then I think it's spot on.
Okay.
Am I allowed to
go
guess?
on then. Let us know. Who is it?
Could it be one of the best henchmen in the series?
Oh, go on.
Early on in the series?
Oh, he's getting closer.
Is it a certain Mr. Red Grant?
It is indeed.
Yes.
Moments
Brilliant.
before that classic train fight kicks off. There it
That's
is.
a
Bond's
great,
on his
great
knees. There he is with the attaché case.
Yep.
Nicely done. Well done.
Okay. Well, I have got a quote for you this time.
All right. Very nice.
Hopefully I'll be able to pull it off. Maybe not as well as you've just styled that one out. But anyway, are you ready?
Yeah.
Here goes. Both of you.
Let's have that again. That's great.
Okay. Here we go. Here it is again. Both of you.
Very nice. I like
Okay.
that. Okay, I'm pretty warm on that one, I think.
Yeah,
That's
you're
good.
pretty hot on that one. Okay,
right.
that's good.
Very nice. We'll find out the answer to that next week, won't we?
Yeah. How
All
about
right.
a little bit of Tommy trivia this week? What do you think?
Let's bloody do it.
Who wrote the score for Live and Let Die? Who played Helga Brandt and how did she die? Who wants to stockpile the water in Bolivia? It's Tommy Trivia.
All right. It's time for Tommy Trivia. For newer listeners, this is where Chris whips out his 007 Trivial Pursuit deck, thankfully, and quizzes me on the questions. So, Chris, what have you got for me, baby?
Okay, would you like to start on casting characters, films, vehicles, gadgets and weapons, locations, or crew and behind the scenes?
I'm gonna go. I did gadgets and weapons last time, I think. So I'm gonna go crew and behind the scenes.
Oh, brave man,
Yeah,
brave
yeah.
man. Okay, can you tell me who sang the film's title song?
I can. Yeah, I can.
I'll give you a clue if you want it.
I'm gonna try for this one, Chris.
If you get this, man, this is going to be incredible.
I'm gonna say Tina Turner.
Oh no, but it's a good guess.
Okay, go on.
I'll give you a clue. The film was from 1987.
Then that would be Aha.
Yes, it would.
nice.
Okay. Question
Job's favourite band.
number 2. Casting characters. Who is agent who double crosses Bond?
Question number 2: who is the agent that double crosses Bond?
Yeah, see if you can guess this one.
It could be several. I mean,
Yeah.
it could be Miranda Frost that we were just talking
It
about.
could be Miranda Frost. It's not, but you're on the
I'm
right.
I'm guessing it's 006 Alec Trevelyan.
No.
No?
It is in the film Live and Let Die, if that helps.
Live and Let Die? Oh, of course. It's Rosie Carver,
It is indeed
Yeah.
Rosie Carver. Lovely stuff.
Elliot's sister.
Elliot's sister, yeah, exactly, yeah. Okay, on to the films. Who presents Bond with a lighter?
Felix Leiter.
Mm.
Or is it Della? It's Della that gives it to him.
Can you tell? I think it's both, is it? Let me
Okay.
see what it says. Yeah, Della and Felix Leiter.
Okay.
Nicely done. Okay, on to vehicles. What does Alex Dimitrios lose to Bond in a poker game?
That is, of course, the Aston Martin DB5.
It is indeed. Okay, 2 more to go. We're on to gadgets and weapons. In Doctor No, who is the first person to be killed?
Strangways.
Yes.
Very
Do
nice.
you know his first name?
John.
Yes,
Yeah.
Commander John Strangways. Beautiful. Lovely stuff. So you've only got one more to go.
Okay.
Which is locations. Oh, you'll never guess what this question
All
is.
right, go on, give it to me, baby.
Oh, I don't know if you can see it. Can you read that? Second from the bottom.
Second from the bottom. Where is Gustav Graves Ice Palace? In Iceland, of all places.
Yes.
Yeah.
6 out of 6. Nicely done, Tommy
right,
boy.
nice.
Beautiful.
Well, I got
Beautiful
4
stuff.
out of 6, didn't I? Because there was 2 I didn't get, the title song singer and the...
Oh yeah. Well, no, because once I told you the titles, you got. them,
Oh,
didn't you?
right. Okay.
Yeah, I'm not going to let you not have those. It can be harsh as hell.
All right. Sweet.
There we go. So that's part 2.
Part 2
of
done
Die
another day.
Another Day. One more to go, Tommy. One more to go.
Indeed. So next week we'll be back with the third and final part, and then, as always, we'll be back the week after with the 90-second review episodes. So get your minds ticking on those. Don't send them in just yet, but get your brains ticking on what you want to say about Die Another Day in 90 seconds or less. If you're a newer listener, because we haven't done a film review in a while, have we? So there might be some new people that don't know the procedure. Head on over to jamesbondradio.com. On the right hand side you'll see like a floating button that says send a voicemail. Click that bad boy, and through your phone or your computer you can leave us a voicemail. You get 90 seconds to leave a message, and we want to know exactly what you think about Die Another Day. Now, if you are like us and you have similar views, definitely let us know. Tell us what you're thinking about it, what your thoughts are. If you are one of the small group of people who actually love this film, or it's your favourite Bond film, equally we want to hear from you as well.
Amazing. We definitely want to hear from you.
So
If it's...
there is no mockery or judgment in the JBR family. If you genuinely love this, we also want to hear from you. We want to hear your perspective of why you like it and why you think it's good. There is no judgment. There is no, oh, you're clearly not a good Bond fan if you love this film. It's none of that bollocks around here. If you like it, we want to hear your opinion, because I would like to be able to enjoy this. Sadly, I can't. I can't right now. But if there is some lens by which I can look at the film that somebody else helps me to get to, I'd be grateful to receive that information. Whether it exists or not, I don't know.
I know from discussions with like quite a few fans that there are some people who say that Die Another Day is underrated. Who say that actually, if you just take it for what it is and just enjoy the ride, that it's just a bit of fun and you don't worry about the invisible cars, the shit dialogue, the crap editing, the dodgy direction, and everything like that. It's actually
You just ignore the entire film, and then you're all right. Yeah.
No, but on a serious note, there are obviously people that do enjoy it.
Yeah.
And I think if you sometimes if you've had a tough day or whatever, and you just want to watch something mind-numbingly easy, where you're not really watching it, it's just there.
Yeah.
Die Another Day might suit as that sort of thing. But then again, you'd probably just stick on another one and get more involved in it. But anyway, so there are people that enjoy it, and I think what we've tried to do is highlight certain moments where there are some decent things, like the Blades Club. I think there's some good stuff in that, and a few other bits and pieces. So there are some positives, but they are few and far between from our point of view. But there are other people that, for this, it's just a fun watch, just because it is crazy, it is out there, and obviously we've got to respect that. So anyone like that, definitely want to hear from you. But so
absolutely.
be good to do.
All right, Chris.
Right.
Well, thank you for helping me through this, and likewise, I hope I've helped you through it too. You know?
Do you think this is a bit like sometimes we say we've got that sort of valve that we need to let loose in terms of our bondness, and we need to chat and need to geek out about it just to help us through life. Do you think this ultimately will be a positive experience for you in terms of being able to reassess it and go over it, or is it only sort of taking a year or two off your lifespan for having to go through it again?
I don't think it's helped me at all. I genuinely think that I was hoping I'd go into it and it would have grown on me over 18 years and I would look at it differently, but I just don't. And I can quite confidently say, Chris, that now I know I've left this amount of time and now I know what I know about it, I can confidently say I will probably never sit down and watch it again, ever. Like
not even in 18 years time?
Not even in 18 years. Maybe with the passage of time, when I'm, God knows, 60 years old or whatever, I might be like, all right, let's give this another spin. But I don't think so. I've never had that urge in 18 years, so I don't know what that. But then, I don't know. You're middle-aged now, Chris. Tell me what you think. Do you get more reflective when you're a middle-aged man? What is it?
What happens once you hit 40, Tom, is you kind of lose your memory, so you forget what Bond films you have watched. So you have to watch them again, and it's like a whole new film each time. So it's amazing.
Do you know what? There's always been a dream of mine. I've always wished I could erase parts of my mind so I could watch all my Bond films again, completely fresh with no.
Once you hit 40, you'll have that wish.
Oh, mate, well, I'm looking forward
every
to it.
time you watch a film.
18 months away from me, mate. Bring it on. I'll look forward to that. All right, nice. Okay, well then, I've been Tom Sears. Who have you been?
I have been Chris Wright, as always.
Very nice. And James Bond Radio will return next week with Die Another Day Part 3. We will see you then, everybody. Bye.
Take care, everyone.
Bye.
Hope you enjoyed the show. Good night.